There is a kind of silence almost no one ever talks about. It is not the silence of an empty room. It is not the silence of being alone. It is something deeper than that. It is the silence inside your mind when you check your bank account and feel nothing. No tightness in the chest. No quiet panic. No automatic calculation of what is missing. No comparison to what someone else has. Just a number on a screen and a quiet, simple acknowledgement of where you are. That kind of silence is rare. Most people have never experienced it, not for a single day in their adult life. They live with a constant low hum of financial noise inside their head. The hum that never fully turns off, even when nothing is wrong. The background pressure that follows them through every meal, every conversation, every weekend, every moment when they are supposed to be enjoying themselves. This noise is not always loud. Sometimes it is just a faint feeling of unease, a small "what if?", a small "not yet?", a small "still not enough." But it is there, always there. And because it has been there for so long, most people don't even notice it anymore. It feels like part of who they are, like the natural state of being an adult, like the price you pay for living in the modern world. Today, we are going to talk about something almost no one believes is possible: financial peace. Not financial freedom in the way it is usually sold to you: yachts, beaches, retirement at 35. Something quieter, something more honest, something that almost everyone secretly wants but rarely names. The internal silence of someone who has finally stopped being afraid of money. Because the real freedom is not what is in your account. It is what is no longer running in your head. Let's go back to Alex one last time. If you have been with us through this series, you have watched Alex change. Slowly. Imperfectly. Not in dramatic moments, but in small, almost invisible shifts. He began noticing his patterns instead of being controlled by them. He stopped chasing more for the sake of more. He stepped out of comparisons that were never fair to begin with. He gave himself permission to want a different life than the one he was raised inside. He stopped responding to every problem with "work harder." And now, on a quiet weekday evening, Alex sat at his kitchen table. There was nothing remarkable about the moment. He had eaten a simple dinner. The dishes were still on the counter. His phone was face down on the table, untouched for the last hour. He had just opened his banking app, almost out of habit. He looked at the number, and for the first time he could remember, he felt nothing. No tightness, no relief, no comparison, no fear. Just a quiet, ordinary moment. He closed the app. He sat back in his chair, and he noticed something even more unusual than the absence of fear. Inside his mind, there was silence. The voice that had been running for years, calculating, worrying, comparing, planning, regretting, worrying again, wasn't speaking. Just for that moment. And that small moment of internal silence was, for Alex, a deeper experience of wealth than any number on any screen had ever been. This is what we want to talk about today, because what Alex felt, briefly, in that ordinary evening, is what almost everyone is actually chasing, even when they don't know it. The real goal was never money. The real goal was never money. It never was. It only ever seemed that way because money was the most visible thing missing in your life when something inside you didn't feel right, when you couldn't pay a bill, when you couldn't say yes to something you wanted, when you couldn't help someone you loved, when you couldn't take a day off when your body needed it, when you couldn't afford to make a mistake. In all those moments, money seemed like the answer. So you began chasing it. Reasonably, patiently, sometimes desperately. But here is the part almost no one realizes until they actually have more money than they used to. The pain wasn't really about the money. It was about what the lack of money did to you internally. The pressure, the anxiety, the constant calculation, the feeling of being trapped, the sense that your time wasn't really yours, the fear of what could happen if anything went wrong. When you imagined having more money, what you were really imagining was the absence of all those feelings. You weren't dreaming of numbers in an account. You were dreaming of the silence those numbers might bring. But here is the strange truth. That silence does not actually come from the numbers. It comes from somewhere else entirely. Because there are people who have very little money and live with extraordinary internal calm. And there are people who have enormous wealth and live with constant inner storms. The amount in the account is not the variable. The variable is the relationship the person has with money inside their own mind. And that relationship is built, or broken, not by external numbers, but by internal understanding. This is why so many people who finally reach the income they were chasing feel disappointed. They hit the number, and the silence they were promised does not arrive. The pressure does not lift. The anxiety does not end. Because the noise was never actually about the lack of money. The noise was about the patterns running underneath their relationship with money. The fears, the beliefs, the comparisons, the identity that always demanded more. And those patterns don't disappear when the income goes up. They just get louder, because now there is more to lose. More to compare. More to defend. More to chase. This is one of the most disorienting truths a person can encounter. The thing you were trying to fix with money was never something money could fix. It was always something only awareness could fix. What financial peace actually feels like. What financial peace actually feels like is almost impossible to describe to someone who has never experienced it. Because it is defined more by what is absent than by what is present. It is not excitement. It is not euphoria. It is not the feeling people imagine when they think about being rich. It is, more than anything, the absence of certain things. The absence of dread when an unexpected expense appears. The absence of guilt when you spend money on something you needed. The absence of envy when someone else's life looks more impressive on social media. The absence of panic when your account dips lower than you expected. The absence of constant background calculations running silently inside your head. The absence of money being the loudest voice in every decision you make. This is not the same as having unlimited money. It is not the same as never thinking about money. It is something quieter, something more grounded. It is the experience of money becoming what it was always supposed to be. A tool, not an identity. A means, not a measure. Something you handle, not something that handles you. And once money settles into that role, something extraordinary begins to happen inside your daily life. You start being more present in moments that have nothing to do with money. A conversation with a friend, a meal you actually taste, a walk you actually feel, a weekend that actually feels like rest. These things had always been there, but before, you couldn't fully experience them. The background hum was too loud. Your mind was too busy. Some part of you was always somewhere else, calculating something invisible. When the noise quiets, life expands. Not because anything external changed, but because you finally have enough internal space to notice that life was always there, waiting for you to stop running through it long enough to see it. This is the wealth almost no one talks about. Because it doesn't show up in photos. It doesn't impress anyone watching from outside. It can't be posted, shared, or proven. But it is the only kind of wealth that actually changes how it feels to be alive. The 3 quiet foundations. The 3 quiet foundations of financial peace are not techniques. They are not strategies. They are not productivity hacks or investment formulas. They are internal shifts. And once you understand them, the external numbers begin to take care of themselves naturally. The first foundation is awareness. Awareness of your patterns. Awareness of your triggers. Awareness of the inherited beliefs you didn't choose. Awareness of the comparisons running automatically inside your mind. Awareness of the ways you use money to avoid feelings you don't want to feel. This is not therapy talk. This is just the simple, quiet practice of noticing what is happening inside you when money is involved. Without awareness, you keep reacting. With awareness, you finally have a choice. And every meaningful change in your relationship with money begins in that small space between reaction and choice. The second foundation is enough. Knowing what enough actually looks like for you. Specifically, not what culture told you enough means. Not what social media implied enough should look like. Not what your family modeled as enough. But what enough genuinely feels like in your own honest life. Because if you do not define enough, the world will keep moving the line forever. And no number will ever stop the chase. When you define enough on your own terms, something powerful happens. The endless climb finally has a top. Not a ceiling on your ambition, but a ceiling on the anxiety. A point at which you can stop pushing for more, simply because more would not change anything that actually matters to you. Most people will never define this. They live their entire lives chasing a moving target. They die richer than they ever needed to be, but never feeling rich for a single day. You do not have to live that way. The third foundation is direction. The willingness to choose where your life is actually going, instead of letting it happen to you. Direction is what turns daily effort into actual progress. Without it, you are just busy. With it, even small actions begin to compound into a life that genuinely feels like yours. Direction does not have to be grand. It does not have to be impressive. It does not even have to be permanent. But it has to be honest. It has to come from you, not from the noise around you. When you have direction, everything you do begins to mean something. The work you put in, the money you save, the opportunities you say yes or no to. They stop being random. They start being part of something building. Awareness, enough, and direction. These are the three foundations. They are simple, they are quiet, and almost no one is ever taught them. But anyone who lives with real financial peace, regardless of the size of their bank account, has built their life on top of these three things, even if they have never named them. The lie of when. The lie of when is one of the most damaging beliefs people carry about money, and it sounds completely innocent. When I have more, I will feel calm. When I pay off this debt, I will be free. When I hit that number, I will finally relax. When I reach that level, everything will change. These sentences sound reasonable. They sound responsible. They sound like the kind of patient thinking adults are supposed to have. But they are quietly poisoning your present. Because every time you tell yourself when, you are postponing your peace. You are taking the calm that could exist today and pushing it into a future that may never arrive in the way you imagine it. And here is what almost no one realizes. The when never actually comes. People who reach the income they were chasing find new whens. The next level, the next purchase, the next benchmark, the next comparison. The peace they imagined would arrive when they hit the goal does not arrive. Not because they didn't earn it, but because they didn't change the system inside them that creates the when in the first place. So they keep moving the goalpost. They keep delaying their peace. They keep telling themselves that just a little more progress will finally make them feel okay. But the only people who experience real financial peace are the ones who eventually realize this. The peace cannot wait for when. It has to start now, even if your situation is not perfect, even if your income is not where you want it, even if your debt is not gone, even if your savings are not impressive. You can begin practicing peace now. Not as a lie, not as denial, not as pretending things are fine when they aren't, but as a quiet, internal decision to stop tying your inner state entirely to your external numbers. This is hard. It is not natural. It goes against everything most people are taught. But it is also the only thing that actually leads to the peace you are looking for. Because peace built on when disappears as soon as the conditions shift again. Peace built on awareness, enough, and direction stays. Through changes, through setbacks, through unexpected expenses, through the rises and falls that every life eventually contains, it stays because it was never built on the numbers. It was built on something deeper than numbers can ever reach. The day the noise quiets. The day the noise quiets does not come the way most people expect it to. You imagine that one day you will hit a certain milestone and suddenly the inner pressure will lift. as if a switch will flip, as if the years of internal noise will finally turn off. It rarely happens that way. What actually happens is much quieter and much more gradual. You start noticing small spaces of silence inside your day. A few minutes here, a morning there, an evening when, for some reason you cannot fully explain, your mind is not running calculations. At first, you don't trust it. You wait for the noise to come back. And usually, it does, because old patterns don't disappear. They quiet, then return, then quiet again. The shift is not linear, but over time, the silent moments become longer. The noisy moments become shorter. And one day, almost without you realizing it, you notice that the default state of your mind has changed. You are not anxious by default anymore. You still feel things. You still face problems. You still encounter unexpected expenses, difficult financial decisions, moments of pressure. Life does not become easier because your inner world has shifted, but something fundamental has changed. The problems no longer immediately trigger the same internal storm. The unexpected expenses no longer feel like the world is ending. The difficult decisions no longer feel impossible. You handle them from a calmer place, not because you became stronger, not because you became more disciplined, but because the system inside you that used to amplify every financial event into emotional crisis has finally been examined, understood, and gently rewritten. This is what real progress looks like on the inside. It is rarely dramatic. It is rarely visible. It cannot be posted or proven or shared. But it changes how it feels to be you. And that change, quiet, internal, almost invisible, is worth more than any number on any account. Because it is the only change that actually lasts. For Alex, this didn't happen all at once. It happened in moments. The moment he caught himself not panicking when an unexpected expense arrived. The moment he noticed he hadn't compared his life to a stranger's social media post in days. The moment he opened his banking app and felt only a clean, simple acknowledgement of the number, with no story attached to it. The moment he realized that his life, in many quiet ways, had already become enough. These moments built up slowly. Some weeks, the old noise returned. Some weeks, he caught himself slipping back into comparison, into the exhausted habit of working harder for reasons that were no longer his. But each time, he came back faster. Each time, the storm passed sooner. Each time, the inner ground felt slightly more stable than it had before. And one ordinary evening, sitting at his kitchen table with his phone face down and the dishes still on the counter, Alex realized something he had been quietly building toward for a long time. He was not chasing anything in this moment. He was not anxious about anything. He was not comparing his life to anyone. He was just sitting there, living, being, existing in his own life, on his own terms, without any background storm trying to convince him that something was wrong. It was nothing dramatic. There were no fireworks. There was no grand transformation. But it was, for him, the first time in his adult life that he had felt fully present in his own existence without money being the loudest voice in the room. And that, more than any income, more than any milestone, more than any external achievement, was what financial peace actually felt like. Quiet, ordinary, yours. You have spent enough years carrying noise that was never really yours. The pressure from comparisons that didn't matter. The voices from people who didn't know your life. The timelines you never agreed to. The fears inherited from generations who lived in different circumstances. The exhausting habit of working harder in directions you never chose. You don't have to carry all of that forever. You don't have to wait for a perfect financial situation to begin making peace with money. You don't have to hit a number before you allow yourself to feel safe. You don't have to earn the right to a quieter inner life. The peace you have been waiting for is not at the end of the climb. It is built, quietly, on the way up. Through awareness. Through honest definitions of enough. Through small, intentional decisions made in your own direction. It is not given by the world. It is built by you, slowly, against everything in modern life that tries to keep you running. And the day you finally feel it, even briefly, you will understand something almost no one is taught. Yet, financial peace is not a number. It is the quiet you carry inside, regardless of the number. It is the ability to look at your life and recognize, even with imperfections, even with unfinished things, that you are already standing on something real, something built, something that, despite everything, despite all the noise, despite all the years of running, is genuinely yours. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are not running out of time. You are simply someone who, for the first time, has the chance to live with money instead of being lived by it. And once that shift happens inside you, no external storm can fully take it away. The noise will come and go. The numbers will rise and fall. Life will continue to bring its unexpected weather. But underneath all of it, there will be a quiet ground that wasn't there before. A ground built by your own awareness. A ground built by your own definition of enough. A ground built by your own direction. And on that ground, you can finally do something almost no one in the modern world is doing. You can rest. Not as escape. Not as giving up. Not as pretending the world isn't loud, but as the deep, mature understanding that you have done enough internal work to no longer be at war with money. And that, in the end, is the real wealth this entire series has been quietly pointing toward. Not more, not faster, not louder, just enough, just yours, just peace. The kind that no one can give you. The kind that was always waiting for you to stop running long enough to find it. The kind that, once you have it, you will recognize as the thing you were really chasing all along, even when you thought it was something else. If you are feeling this, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss more content like this. Welcome home. To your own life. Finally. And now, I want to ask you, what do you think? Are you already on your way to this, or still searching for it? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.